Okay, so I think that is the end of my inheritance. Okay, yeah. So that was my inheritance research. And then where it talks about God being our inheritance, I found a good representation of that in Matthew 25, verse 34. It says, there's a lot of good stuff in this chapter. This is the parable of the 10 virgins chapter. The sheep and the goats. In fact, I think this is where it says, then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. So that's one of those statements that I was talking about. So there is an inheritance. There was a kingdom that was prepared for us since the creation of the world. So if you want to sit and think about that for a little while, not only were we created from the foundation of the world, but the kingdom that was to be our inheritance was also created. So whatever. All right. And then I found something also referring to us as God's treasure. Ezekiel 7:22. Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea. Okay, but what's before that is what I really need. I guess it doesn't matter. If I find Daniel, I've gone too far. Okay, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah. Oh my goodness. Ezekiel. Okay. What was it? 7:22. And then the other one, the main one that I was going to talk about, is also in Ezekiel. So I probably need to go back and review Ezekiel as a whole, as a prophet, and like what his time period was, because I get them confused. 7:22. I will give their wealth as plunder to foreigners, and as loot to the wicked of the earth who will defile it. I will turn my face away from the people, and robbers will desecrate the place I treasure. So I think he's talking about when they go into exile. And I probably just picked it because it was the clearest description of God saying, like, definitively that he treasured Israel. And even, we all know the scripture. Well, most of us know the scripture of where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So if God is sort of admitting that he treasures Israel, then he's basically saying, like, that's where his heart is. I think in the one that I just read, that was in Deuteronomy, talked about Jacob being the apple of his eye. And if you're not familiar with the reason that I can sort of impose everything about believers onto that, basically, believers are not separate from Israel. We are grafted into the vine of Israel. So we are a continuation of what God started with Israel. And we're sort of adopted Israel. So Ezekiel 16. So what they have inherited by basically blood and tradition is what we inherit by faith, which kind of culminates into this entire plan of God. Does that mean that we don't count as God's inheritance because we're not blood doesn't mean we are even more of his inheritance, because it's by faith, which is what started this whole thing off to begin with. I don't know. Um, Off the top of my head, I want to sort of say that the faith is the higher point, because so much of what Jesus did and all of that hinges on belief and faith. And um, even before Christ, faith is what he began, you know, the the Jewish faith. So I want to say that faith holds the highest position, um, overall. But either way, we're able to sort of glean from what God told Israel in the Old Testament, and glean that about ourselves. Now, I did this other um, post that was kind of spontaneous. Like, I didn't mean to go off into this thing about romance, but it's true, and I think it is going to be part of my emphasis, because I do see the Bible as a romantic, as a romance, and um, that's something that I'm enthusiastic about, and probably will be talking about a lot on this channel starting right now, because I almost forgot about one of my favorite things that I've ever read in the Bible. A lot of people, when they talk about God saying romantic stuff, they go to right to Song of Solomon, and Song of Solomon's good. I get it. I love it. Um, you know, it's first of all, like, be prepared, because I was not when I first read Song of Solomon. Like, it literally goes all the way into like the honeymoon night. Like, bruh, I did not know that it was going to do that. I remember I went to a seminar, like, I don't know, it was in college, and it was a seminar on Song of Solomon. This guy who, like, is a pastor, and he goes around doing these comprehensive breakdowns of Song of Solomon for people. I don't know. I guess maybe to you know let people know how sexual it is. I don't know. I don't know why he felt called to do that, but it was very uncomfortable, and everybody was there was uncomfortable, but it was good, and he didn't lie. He wasn't exaggerating, but it was just like, oh wow, this is about like romantic love. So even the people, when I hear people like go to Song of Solomon for certain things, like, I'm like, y'all didn't go to the seminar, because y'all wouldn't be just like freely quoting this like so comfortably. Like, I don't know. It's great. It's wonderful. But my point is, like, there is a romantic element to this. Like, and I like it gets weird, because it's like, okay, who's going where and what's doing what. But what it appears to be is that God being three, and it's also very weird, because I don't know, is it weird? It's like he refers to Israel as his wife many, many, many times, especially when she's in adultery, which means she she has gone off to other gods, and that's basically one of these passages that I'm about to read. But the context he gives before that is like one of my favorite things ever. So I don't know if is that God the Father? Is it Jesus? I don't get the sense that it's the Spirit at all. But Jesus very clearly is specified as a groom in some sort of way. And then the Father God is the Father. We're adopted, and He adopts us. We're His Father. Jesus died to restore our relationship with the Father, not necessarily to draw Him to Himself. So that gets confused in church a lot. I mean, no one can blame you. It gets a little, it's confusing, but it's just there's a lot going on. There's just a lot going on. So don't feel bad if you get confused. It's not like this thing is could be easily summed up. There's a lot going on. But so I don't know. It's a very interesting idea that maybe in the prophecies, in the prophets rather, the minor prophets or any of the prophets, that it is maybe Jesus talking. That would be like super cool and not biblically unsound, really, because they do say. I mean, he says that if you see me, you've seen the Father. He refers to us as children sometimes, like he is the Father. Um, in fact, I don't know if he himself has ever referred to us as his bride. Maybe he has. But it's almost like God refers to us as Jesus' bride, but Jesus doesn't refer to himself. I don't know. I don't know. And then obviously in Revelation, the finished church is referred to as the wife of the Lamb. We all know who the Lamb is. So it's a lot of symbology going on, a lot of you know, switching identities, or just basically the the culmination of all relationships being God and his creation. So, like I was saying in the previous one in Deuteronomy, Jacob was referred to as Jacob. He was referred to as the person who sparked off all of the descendants as a collective. But this time, like many times, Israel's referred to as his wife, right? So this is um, God talking. And then also, if you're not familiar with the prophets, you need to know, yes, there's a lot of, I don't know, the way that God spoke back in the day. I think that has a lot to do with it too. Sometimes you hear it today, but it's very allegorical. Um, it's not always straightforward. But then there's certain things that sound maybe allegorical to us that were probably straightforward then. It's just time has changed so much that we don't do any of the stuff. So it sounds allegorical to us. But probably was just, they knew exactly what he meant. So let me go into this thing. I think I've prefaced it enough. All right, so listen, this is Jerusalem as an adulterous wife, chapter 16. We're starting from verse 1. Okay, so the word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, confront Jerusalem with her detestable practices and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says to Jerusalem. Your ancestry and birth were in the land of the Canaanites. Your father was an Amorite and your mother was a Hittite. On the day you were born, your cord was not cut, nor were you washed with water to make you clean, nor were you rubbed with salt or wrapped in cloths. Okay, so like that, for example. We rubbed in salt. Is that some allegory? No, I'm pretty sure that's just what you did to little babies when they were born. It's probably some super great thing that we should still be doing and we're not. I don't know, maybe saline solution or something is the equivalent today of something, whatever. No one looked on you with pity or had compassion enough to do any of these things for you. Rather, you were thrown out into the open field, for on the day you were born, you were despised. Um, I feel like that's something that they would have understood what he means by that. And you can kind of get that from reading the scriptures, that and just the way that God does things. He picks the lowest of the low, he picks the least, the overlooked, the underappreciated. David was like the greatest king, but in his family he was like the runt of the family. Like literally, Samuel went to go anoint the king. God was like, "My king is there. Go anoint him." And he didn't even know. He didn't say the name or anything. He was just like, "Yeah, I'm here to anoint your kid to be king." And God was like, "I'll point him out to you." And so the dad is like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know." Because he had 7 sons. They're all strapping lads. So he brought out the oldest, the one he was most proud of, the big, strong, honking son. And he was like, "Yeah, no, it's not him. It's not him. It's not him. It's not him. It's not him." He was like, "Do you got any more?" He was like, "Oh, well, we got one that, we just let him, he's just out in the field. Like, he's a shepherd. He, like, does the sheep stuff. We don't." So he was literally not even going to present David to him. So these are the types of people that God likes. So it doesn't surprise me that maybe Israel was actually looked upon. I mean, it does say in Egypt that it was detestable to speak to a Hebrew. So so that's what we're dealing with. They literally almost got exterminated. Okay, so that's what he's describing. Then it says, verse 6, "Then I passed by and saw you kicking about in your blood, and as you lay there in your blood, I said to you, live." So I don't know if this is also kind of like this is what you did when you didn't want a child. You just like put them out in the field and let them cry where you couldn't hear them. I mean, that seems like what you would do. So that may also be what he's describing metaphorically, right? I made you grow like a plant of the field. You grew and developed and entered puberty. Your breasts had formed and your hair had grown, yet you were stark naked. All right, so this is God talking about Israel's breasts, okay? Period, point blank, right? Here's my favorite part. Later, later, I passed by, and when I looked at you and saw that you were old enough for love, I spread the corner of my garment over you and covered your naked body. I gave you my solemn oath and entered into a covenant with you, declares the sovereign Lord, and you became mine. Hot, hot, mega hot. I love it. Let's make that into a story. Oh, wait, it already is. Like, again, one of those other genres that people are obsessed with. Okay? Like, what are we talking about? You're all grown up, and now the guy that like took care of you when like you were like no one cared and you were just gonna be like some runt, he loved you anyway, even though like literally no one cared. And then you got older and your natural beauty emerged, and he chose you. Like, come on, sign me up for that every day of the week. Yes, yes. Who doesn't want this? All of your other religions sound like complete pure garbage trash. Like, but here's the thing too, and this is sort of what he's getting at with this, because later we find out, I don't know, maybe I should let me skip because I could talk about that for a long time. So this is what he's describing happens. They get married, basically, is what he's saying. Then it says, "But you trusted in your beauty and you used your fame to become a prostitute." Now, why on earth would you use your fame to become a prostitute? Because in our culture, to be a prostitute is like a really low thing that you do because you're hooked on drugs and you got to support your habit. Um, why did anyone become a prostitute back in any type of day? Um, I think by and large, prostitution represents a type of woman who, for whatever reason, either because of their own will or because something has happened, they are not conforming to the pattern of society. And so they become prostitute. So, um, we got a lot of hooker with a heart of gold type of things in our culture nowadays. to the point where you literally could just like be a hero to like little girls if you just have like your OnlyFans and you just literally are a prostitute. But and then how do you prostitute for fame? And why would you like, or how do you use your fame? Basically, you because you're famous, you can have like your pick of the litter, and so you use your fame as your currency, and you sleep with whoever you want to sleep with. Um, and it's very interesting because it's like you wouldn't think like you wouldn't call that in modern terms prostitution. It's all like consenting adults, blah 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 blah. But when you really think about consenting adults, like what are they consenting to? Typically, they're consenting to an exchange, which is prostitution. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really interesting how like the Bible can always like break it down to like its bare elements. And then it says like he really goes into detail of just how egregious it it's like he's doing this whole metaphor, but I don't think it's just a metaphor. It's not just like, all right, say for instance you married someone and let's call her Bizreal, and you did this and that. Like he's really saying this is the nature of our relationship. So he's going, you took some of your garments to make gaudy high places where you carried on your prostitution. You went to him and he possessed your beauty. You also took, look how like tastefully God is laying out like really gross stuff. You also took the fine jewelry I gave you, the jewelry made of my gold and silver, and you made yourself male idols and engaged in prostitution with them. And you just think, this sounds terrible. How could they do this? But like, and just the way that he's saying like, you took the stuff that I bought you, or you took the stuff that I made for you, and then you melted it down and you made an idol out of it. He's saying like, and we do this like, if we are more obsessed with created things, if we have created things, any created thing has taken the place of God, and we're just fawning all over that created thing, that is essentially what you're doing. And then it says, it even says like, the food I provided for you, the flour, oil, olive oil, and honey I gave you to eat, you offered as fragrant incense before them. So it's like anything that you got from, anything that you prospered from, you gave it over to them. And then it says, and you took your sons and daughters whom you bore to me and sacrificed them as food to the idols. So, yeah, I think that's pretty clear. I think I remember like maybe 20 years ago, I would think all of that was metaphor, but now it's very clear that he is specifically talking about abortion, and he's talking about Molech, which is a god that they worshipped in Israel. And yeah, and just the fact that he is calling sons and daughters that the family unit, the sons and daughters, that those are children that Israel bore to him. So in this metaphor, Israel is the wife, and the generations are God's children and Israel's children together, which makes sense. It's all about life being produced through a covenant. Like that is the relationship. Like, and it makes you think about, like, I heard somebody today that was talking about how like love is God's creation. And I was just kind of like, hold on, I thought God is love. Like, how could he have created it or whatever? But I think they mean, like, aside from the fact that we've got like one word for like seven different concepts of love, the idea that two people can come together just because of emotional, just because of love, this invisible thing. And now there's other humans here. There's a whole nother human here now. And, uh, and just that is his invention to allow us to create like he creates. Um, and how profound that is. And it's something we take for granted because it's just like there's billions of us or whatever. But also just the way that the world has twisted that. And now, there's love is being talked about. Like now that has completely, that whole process has sort of been completely eroded and trampled on. And yet love is being talked about more than ever. Everything's love, 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 self love, whatever, all types of love. And it's barren and it's fruitless. It's like that's so counterfeit demonic. It's like people talking about love more than they ever have, and yet no one is being born. You're gonna die. What kind of love is this if you're not gonna go beyond a generation now? Because obviously you got so much love now. It's so much better than it was 100 years ago. We're so much more enlightened 100 years ago that we're going to end our lives because of love. It's like, what? How is that? What? So, but yeah, like, so this entire study about the inheritance and the treasure and all of these words that God uses for Israel in particular, and by extension, believers, is further making me go down this hypothesis road of maybe there are multiple groups. Maybe there's a way that there's a nucleus, maybe the gospel, the stuff that's in the Old Testament, the idea of the tabernacle and all of these things are getting closest to what God is. The Trinity and all of these things are like these kind of like personal details about God that you wouldn't know if you just were like on the outskirts and just like a casual fan or whatever of God. And so the more you know, the more it kind of like hits your brain and you just kind of go, what? How is that possible? What? How is that possible? But how can it be this and that? And these things that people, and then some people just give up trying to swallow that. They give up trying to understand that because they're not, it's like, why would I waste my brain space on it? Like, it's like it's not bad to be a casual friend of God. It's not bad. It's great. It's not bad to be, a servant of God. It's not bad to be, the person that sells God his favorite whatever, and that's a great sense of pride to be that person. But if there's more to be had, there's some of us who know that there's more to be had and will literally jump in with both feet into all of these weird wackadoo these other aspects because we want to know God. We want to know everything there is to know. And we're not satisfied with just being, whatever. And so, as someone who was sort of plagued by this fear that I was not going to have enough works to show for, and I wasn't, oh well, I didn't get my chance to be in the ministry, so I didn't save all these people, and I didn't do all of this, and so I'm probably not going to get this and that or whatever, but that's fine or whatever. There's rewards, but I'm coming to the conclusion. I'm seeing these people that have lots of works to show for, lots of views, and their content is going out, and people are getting saved, and their testimony is going out, and they're going to have lots of rewards, but are not interested, half as interested in the, you know, I won't say minutia, but in these deep, deep things of God, these deep concepts of God. And um, maybe their reward is going to be the mansion in the sky or prestige and this and that. And that's fine. And that's fine. But for some of us, the reward is going to be a closeness with God. There's when in Revelation at the end of the letters, and Jesus is saying, to him who overcomes, and he's all of these things he's going to give them. And he's saying, to some, he's saying, I'm going to make you a pillar, which I think I've talked about before. Some of it says, I'm going to, give you a stone with your name that only I know, like all of these different things. And you go, oh, okay. On earth, we're like, okay, I guess that's a cool gift. In heaven, we'll know how cool those rewards are because we'll understand. Or maybe we won't. Maybe it'll just go on and on and on forever in infinity, and we'll constantly be having more understanding of the profundity of the stuff. But uh, everyone is going to get the rewards. And yes, I've heard people talk about like, oh, I could have got this, oh, I could have got that, oh, the weeping, I could have prayed more, and oh, the room with all the miracles that were supposed to be mine that I didn't contend for, blah blue blah blah. And I'm not, whatever. I'm not dismissing all that, but I'm saying, um, the reality is everyone has as much of God as they want currently, and you will be rewarded based on your level of love for God, because God is the main character. You're only the main character by proxy because he cares about you so much. And so if you can somehow be tied to God in some way, 6 degrees, of God, you know what I'm saying? Like that is going to be your whatever. You want people, God knows if, if he wants to give you the reward where you're now, when you go around in heaven, it's like you're known as the person that did such and such. That's a beautiful thing. That's a lovely reward. And he's going to give that to you. And then there's other people that are going to be, it's like, how much did you give? How much good did you do? It's like after this whole thing is over, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, I know that we're going to be like, oh, I could have did so much if I'd have known, whatever. But the point is to not, it's a closed book test in that sense. But yeah, we're all going to do that. But at the same time, I think we're all going to be, for the most part, those of us who are in God, who are walking the path, are going to be satisfied with what God gives us, especially since at the same time it is going to also be beyond what we could ever ask or think. So um, everyone's going to be satisfied, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's a meritocracy. It's not the same as here, but in the same way it is, as far as like the structure of it. So um, I think hard work is going to be rewarded. But also, if you do zero hard work, but you do this other thing, that too can be rewarded. There's room for it all. Um, it's like Mary and Martha was doing a bunch of work, and Mary was just sitting at his feet listening. Now he does say that Mary chose the better thing. But there's some people who just can't be like Mary. They got to get up and do something. They got to be Martha, and I think that's fine too. The whole point of that passage, what probably was significant to them, was the fact that the woman not doing any work was the one that was highlighted. And Jesus, that was like, whoa, that turned it on its head, because everyone likes women who are productive and are going to get everything done or whatever. So that's the whole point of the passage there, is that it's counterintuitive. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say that, it's not, I don't we shouldn't treat this thing like a pyramid scheme. And the more that you sell, the higher you're going to move up in the company, and then you're going to get a free pink Mercedes. Like, we're all at where we're at for a reason, and we can all have confidence in that, and we can all, um, it's like all of the things in the body. Are there parts of the body that are more important? What are we talking about? Because you can get a hangnail and it will ruin your day. You get a paper cut, it will ruin your day. The whole body is integrated. Yeah, cancer sucks. Cancer is bad. When your liver's failing, it's terrible. There's certain things that will kill you on the spot. But I just read an article of a lady who had this LASIK surgery, and she literally killed herself. I was trying to find, I was like, well, did she like go crazy? Did something like enter her brain and then it made it like to where she like her mental function? They were literally just saying no, her eyes were dry as all get out and she couldn't stand the torture anymore. I was like, I don't even know what that is. I don't even want to know what that is, you guys. Like, when I tell you it was so creepy and eerie, like, because she also left like video of her progress of her recovery, and she was just like, I'm trying to get back to my normal life, blah blah blah. But it was like her eyes, like, it just, like, there's people living with chronic pain, y'all. And it was like, I was like, I believed it. I was like, I bet. And she's not even the only person that's happened to. It's something about, it's not LASIK, it's some new procedure that's like supposed to be better than LASIK, and it's making people go insane and jump off bridges. Like, and you're thinking like, well, what is it doing to their more important organ? It's like, no, it's literally just the eyes being dried out to the point of torture. And they literally are just like, well, just forget it. I don't care. She had 2 babies and a husband. Out. She couldn't do it. She was like, I can't do no more. That's insane. So this video is just getting weirder by the minute. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to get across to you. I will continue to make videos probably on this very subject. And y'all have a good one.